My name is Elias Nogueira. I am a Brazilian guy. Actually, I live in the Netherlands. I'm one of the editors of the Java magazine Netherlands, and I do other stuff. Normally, I do a lot of stuff with testing. So if you guys try to see my content on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., I'll be talking about testing all the time. Okay? This don't limit me to work in the back-end side, because I know all the history. Sometimes the guys that works with quality engineering don't work with back-end or other things. I will show you good stuff, okay? So there are 5 modern testing tools you guys can use. And what I added this, and this is as, let me just change a little bit. Yeah, it's better, right? Instead of 5 different tools. Why? They are modern because they are evolving all the time. Because we know some open source projects, most of the time, get stuck and don't get any updates, etc., don't get any contributions. Those ones get a lot of contributions that are being used for a lot of different tools as well. The AssertJ one will be basically to intermediate. Rest assured will be advanced part. Our utility will be basic, but it's super nice. Wiremock will be a total different thing with Wiremock, and PyTest will be basic thing, but we'll tell you how we can use PyTest to extend a little bit the coverage, okay? Everything that I will show to you guys, you guys will see through some slides, and I'll have some demos as well. I will show you code, I will run the code, it will fail, and maybe we'll fix or not, we will see, okay? I will open for questions during every tool. So when I'm finishing a tool, explaining a tool, I will open for questions. If you guys have questions, you can ask during the talk, and after we'll jump to the next tool, okay? Nice. Let's start with AssertJ. AssertJ is a library to do assertions, and only assertions. But you guys might be thinking, why I don't use JUnit 5 assertions, right? Because JUnit has the assertions, and they are super cool, actually. But AssertJ has more assertions than JUnit 5. For example, you can have specific methods to test optionals, intervals, strings, predicates, temporal types, atomic types, everything you might think about, okay, I should test this kind of approach or class or something from Java. AssertJ has an assertion for that. Differently from TestNG or JUnit, where you can find some of those, okay? I will show you 3 cool features of AssertJ. AssertJ is super nice, it's super easy, but there's 3 cool features. The first one is this recursive comparison. And instead of showing this, I will show directly the code. So what you can see here, I have 2 similar objects with the same data, but the objects are from different classes. One is simulation, and another one is from simulation DTO. It's super common to mapping some classes when you're working with APIs. One thing you guys might be thinking, to test this, so the normal testing you guys would do will be simulation1 dot get, let's say, amount dot is equal to simulation2 dot get amount. But this will be endless. I have like 5, 6 fields. Imagine like 30 fields. Sometimes we do have this in your API, right? It's crazy. One thing you guys might be thinking, probably I can try to compare the object itself. Will it run? Why? The equals comparison is on the reference. So it's compared the reference of the classes, not the content inside it. So this won't work. Just illustrate this, it won't work. Let's run. Let's run. Yeah, failed. Yeah, and actually, they are really similar on data, but they are different classes with different references. And AssertJ has an awesome feature for that. Instead of field by field, I can write like line by line, field by field assertion. I can do dot using recursive comparison dot is equal to simulation2. Let's take a look on the run. Easy. What this feature is doing? AssertJ is going through the 2 objects and getting by reflection the fields and comparing the fields. because they know, okay, if I try to do equals in the class, it's totally different. It's different reference, but the content is okay, it's the same one. This can save you a lot of time writing assertions for your test, a lot. Instead of having like those big chunks of code, like asserting everything, this can be super handful. Cool? Second thing, second good feature. Sometimes you need to do some chunks of assertion. Sometimes, let's say, with recursive comparison, you can ignore some fields, but sometimes, okay, I don't need to assert all the fields. There are some few ones that are super important. Or, most important thing, what if you have a normal assertion like JUnit, you have like 5 assertions in a row. If the first one fails, what is going to happen? The test will halt, will stop, because it's stopping the first one. This is good, but this is bad at the same time, right? Because if you have few assertions, specific ones, it's good. But if you need to see the whole object and say, okay, what is wrong in this whole payload or his whole object, the soft assertions are the best ones. So the normal assertion we know through JUnit, any version, or TestNG, they call it hard assertions because they stop it at the first failure. Soft assertions will wrap up all the assertions, even though the first one, the John, will fail. The other ones will run, and after that, AssertJ is, okay, John failed, and the other ones are okay. And it's super handful as well. Just to illustrate this, and I need to get the class for that. Yeah. So is this one? Yeah. Is this one? No, it's not this one. I still need to see that video from the girls from IntelliJ that they do tricks and tips and tricks. So you can like do everything like with the key, but I cannot do it. I'm super lazy. Is that here? Yeah. Is that here? No. Is here? No. Anyway, let me just show the code and there's this soft assertion. So how we can use it? We have a class for that, soft assertions. We use assert softly. There's a predicate, and we can combine this softly, and we do assert that. We do the assertions. As soon as I have a failure, it will continue. This is super cool, but one thing like better than this is to have the custom assertions. Why is that? You guys have a lot of objects, and you guys know the business rules of the objects. Sometimes it's better to express the business rules than some like random code for assertions or anything. So you guys can create their own assertions for that. In this example, I have this has valid installments, and I have a business rule that, okay, installments should be between 1 and 48. And I can write this custom assertion instead of do an if. That is not necessary, and it's a super bad practice inside your test. I can write a validator for that and use this validator here. The same for the amount. I have a rule there, and I will show to you exactly this. And now is this class. So if you can see here, I have the same thing as this slide. I have these valid installments. But the one thing, I have a custom class for that. How does this work with AssertJ? I need to create a class and extend this abstract assertion and just, okay, I have this object simulation and I have my own class. I must use the assert that because it's the keyword to starting the assertion with AssertJ. And after that, all the methods are builders. So I have here valid installments and I have my if statement here. So comparing if like it's greater than, less than, etc., any kind of business rules. So instead of adding inside the test, I'm adding outside and using support of AssertJ to do it. You can see that it's super easy, but this will bring you this kind of clarity, okay? But we can extend a little bit more. Why? If I run this one, this is still hard assertions, right? Has valid installments. Installments should be, let's look again, at least, 2 installments and more. And I have 1 installment here. So if I run this, it will stop the first one, and the second one never runs, because it's a hard assertion. I can extend it a little bit using creating these custom assertion methods with the soft assertions. What I'm doing, instead of using the soft assertion class from AssertJ, I'm creating my own as well. So I have here simulation soft assert. Same thing, there's a class that I can implement from AssertJ that I should have the assert that, and it's a proxy class. And after this proxy, I just need to get the class and the softly, and like the whole assert that I will have inside the soft assertions will go through this consumer, and AssertJ will do the trick behind the scenes. So I have here the same thing, but as soft assertions. And actually, both will fail, but it won't stop until both are running. And I can see it failed. And it's even showing me the message that I added as a custom one. Installment must be da-da-da. Amount must be da-da-da. Cool? Any questions about this part, soft assertions? Yeah. The first method? The recursive? You can, but you have two different approaches, because they are two different actually approaches for features. If you really would like to compare everything, recursive assertion is the best one, this one. But if you need to compare just few things, but don't stop when you find a failure, so the soft assertions are the best ones. Why is that, for example? When I'm doing API test, I'm getting something from as a response body, and there's like dates, UDIDs, a lot of information that I don't want. And sometimes when I compare like metadatas, some parts of the metadatas are different, but I'm super interested in some parts of it. Instead of using recursive assertions as recursive comparison, I'm using the soft assertions for that. And I'm just ignoring the other fields. Thank you for the question. Is all good? All right. So, demo, yeah, I already showed. So, and rest assured. How many of you know rest assured here? Okay, nice. So, rest assured, it's a super, super cool, nice, awesome DSL for API testing in Java. It's awesome that Quarkus use it for testing. And it's super nice. What we can do with rest assured, it's a DSL. And it uses the BDD syntax. But it's not BDD, it's not related to BDD, any of this. But they were super smart. Because in the BDD approach, when I have the keyword given, it's a precondition. When I have the keyword when, it's an action. And when I have the keyword then, is the result. It's the post actions or the results I have. So it's not implementing the BDD, but it's showing to you through a DSL how I can easily create the precondition, actions, and having the results. Okay? Like this example. That is not that good because it's all black. But given I have a param, so it's a path param, name, no, it's not a path param, sorry, it's a query param, name Elias. When I do a post, then the stats code is that, and the body has an attribute message that is something. Cool? Super easy. But what is the problem with rest assured in this sense? This is a little bit more structured test, where I'm using a factory class to create some data, and I'm creating the request, sending that data, and I'm doing the assertions here. It's perfect. But these kinds of tests with rest assured using given, when, then, don't scale at all. You have a lot of duplications, and when you need to change something, it will be hell. Okay? I have been there, so I'm telling you, it will be hell. But there is a super good way to do it. We can use the OpenAPI generator that most of you probably are using to generate the client for mobile, for Spring, for anything. And OpenAPI generator has a plugin and a configuration for rest assured to generate a client test code to use for AssertJ and remove all that kind of given when then and giving you a fluent way to create it. Plus, if we use a service layer, normal service layer that we know for microservice, but for testing. If we create a service layer, it will be perfect. And that's why I will show right now in the demo. But I need to close this one, open another one, and it's this one. Yeah. Cool. So I will show to you 3 different, just illustrate, test, simulation, restriction. Yeah. So the normal one that I was telling you, this kind of test, it's nice, it's a test, it works. But if you try to look at the beginning of both, they are almost the same. And I can overcome this problem with a feature from AssertJ, which is the request and response specifications. So you can see there is a request specification and creating specific like preconditions, and I can create the post conditions as well for that, like I'm using here. But this won't scale as well because you still have the given when then keywords there. This is okay for 10 tests, 100 tests maybe, or thousands of tests? No. And you guys will have thousands of tests probably. What is the approach? I will show you what is the end result. So what is the end result? It's super easy. I will show to you, but I'm creating an API service. So I have a class here, API service, create an instance for it. And through this instance, that is my service, I'm creating query with restrictions. And the other one, just query. So it's getting even more fluent because sometimes if I do a test, I do the happy path and the edge case. And I can express this in my service saying, okay, this method will do the happy path, this, and that will do the edge case, the corner case, okay? Can you believe that this is a test that works? It's only one line and assertion later instead of a lot of given when then. And it's super easy to create. How we can create this? First thing, we need the, down. Yeah. One thing I'm doing here, we need the OpenAPI spec. It's normal, we create it, right? We have the file OpenAPI spec, we distribute it, etc. What I'm doing here in this process with Maven, I'm downloading from somewhere. It's more or less a good practice because you can control the version as well. So I'm using the Wagon plugin to download from my GitHub project the YAML file, that is the OpenAPI spec. And after that, I'm putting into a specific folder. And in the OpenAPI one, the plugin, I'm telling during the generate source, get the OpenAPI spec, and configure for me as AssertJ. This part of the library could be Spring, Micronaut, could be for specific for Kotlin or for mobile clients, etc. There is one for AssertJ. And I'm telling here, okay, create this invoker, API, and model packers for me. As soon as I run mvn clean, of course, because I need to clean, and compile, what's going to happen? We'll see together, but I need to, oh, I hate this sometimes. Terminal. What is my terminal? What is my terminal in the end? Yeah, thank you. Terminal. You see a lot of verbosity here. Mvn, clean, compile. We could not see that much, but let me just go up there. No, here, yeah. You see, it's downloading my OpenAPI spec. And after it's downloading, it will start to creating the client for me. So you see, they are writing a lot of different classes for me, different things. I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and it ends. And when I see my target folder, generated resource, there's an OpenAPI here. There's my, oops, nope, project, main, Java, I have everything here. I have the APIs, I have the OpenAPI spec. I have the model objects that I have in the OpenAPI spec. I have everything configured. And of course, if I show you, this is a little bit complicated if you don't know the super features from AssertJ, but it's generating everything. And one thing we do with the normal AssertJ, normally we put the path to the API. In the case like restrictions, simulations, I don't know, anything you guys need to fix the path there. What this does, the path is already here. I don't need even to play with the path. So what I do right now, in this sense, I have the client. So I'm just building the client here. This builder is specific from AssertJ that the API it created, like restrictions API. And I have a method here, query CPF, only one method, query CPF, okay? This query CPF can be successfully or the edge case, right? I could write down here, but instead of writing down here, I need to isolate at least my client. And through the service, it's super silly, but you guys will get it. I have a service one, which will use this my custom client, and will create different methods for my happy path and edge cases. Internally is the same, but the result, the stats code, and what is returning as a response body is different. Cool? This is super nice. This scales a lot. And this removes a lot of coding from your side when you're doing API testing. Questions? No? Perguntas? No? All right. So, our utility. I love this tool. And actually, the creator of the AssertJ created this tool as well. You guys might work with Kafka, RabbitMQ, everything that is asynchronous, right? And it's a pain in the ass to try to test something like this, because it's asynchronous, and our tests are synchronous. So we have a problem right now. How I can test this kind of thing? So just to make sure, we can solve with our utilities problem with a synchronous message system, RabbitMQ, Kafka, Redis, and any other thing like this. If you have an asynchronous call, our utility will solve. Our utility will solve in a lot of different ways. You can wait for any kind of conditions, checking fields, it supports atomics, it can ignore exceptions, and it has support to AssertJ. Support? Support. Support to AssertJ. Oops, again. I'm excited explaining this, right? Because of that, it's boom, boom, boom. So you can integrate with AssertJ. It's awesome as well. I will show a super silly example. I'm not playing with RabbitMQ or Kafka. I just created a backend that will delay for 7 seconds the request, just to show to you how we can use these utilities to solve this kind of synchronous problem, okay? So, and it's this one. What I have in this, no, it's not this one. It's that one. And it's event source. That's not even event source, but it's okay. I have a normal like CRUD operations here for this API. Let me just run the app and I will show you. Okay, wait a little bit. Yeah, happy test. So what I have here, I have the OpenAPI through the UI. So I can create operations here. Of course, I can use the tryout. So if I try to post something and I try it out, it will really use and create a request, right? And I have my H2 console because I'm running through H2, this application, because it's a demo. Yeah, I'm connected. What is going to happen in this one? I will try and this event source run. Okay, nothing. I will try to run this post method, execute, and should log something here in the event, but it's showing nothing down there for a few seconds, and after a while, I have some results here. Normal synchronous thing, right? Of course, if I try to run a test, and okay, stop, nice, here, and I do have tests for that. This kind of test that I have exactly here, it will check for a restriction. In between, I have these events that will log somewhere, and I'm trying to test it, checking with the status, it's okay. But it's asynchronous. It will fail because it's trying to run sequence, in a sequence. I'll just try to illustrate to you this one. And of course it will fail, because it won't wait until that 7 seconds to show something. But what I can do, I can use a utility, and it's super easy. How we use this normally? We need to have some way to even go to the API and do a pooling, or as we are running it in the backend project, we can access the repository of it, trying to find it through the database, and from that, we can create this pooling method. It is exactly what I have here. When I try to submit a request, I have this event is found. So I'm just access my repository, trying to find that key that I have that's called CPF here, and see if it's present. The trick here is I don't need to create this pooling, this thread. I have this scalable that is from a utility that will do this for you behind the scenes. And in my test, I have one kind of precondition. It's not a precondition, but just one action. I will wait at most 10 seconds until event is found. And after that, I can do whatever I want. So I'm solving asynchronous API problems here. Let's see if it works. And I really don't know if it will work. So it will run. So it's running, right? Because it's waiting for it. And it's waiting, and it's waiting. Successfully. Super easy, right? With basically 2 lines of code. Of course, there's a method, but 1 line of code, 2 lines of code. I can solve my asynchronous problems in the APIs. Any questions? Yes. So you need to chain the tests, no? Pode falar em português também. Sim.
Dá para ter vários testes a esperar, porque senão, se for sequencial e tivermos 10 testes, 10 segundos em cada, vai passar ao correr os testes todos, vai demorar 100 segundos. Neste caso, se dá para fazer em simultâneo, todos em paralelo.
In parallel, okay, parallel, okay. You want to do in parallel, but it needs to still waiting using this approach? Is that right?
Instead of waiting 100 seconds, waiting 10 seconds, because all of them are waiting 10 seconds.
I didn't understood fully the question, but let's talk after the session, but just for me to understand. But if I, yeah, let's talk later. You. One wait for all the tests. So you create this kind of method, right? So it's inside this. Okay, now I got it. So this is inside this test. You can create exactly this in another class and distributing any kind of test you have, if it has the same thing, right?
I think it's more like exposing that if you have 10 tests and each test has a different condition and that condition takes 10 times.
No, yeah, it will increase exponentially. Yeah, sure. But you can parallelize this because they are being different threads. But this waiting time is still happening. But this waiting time is like the kind of waiting, smarting one. It's not a thread slip. It won't stop for 10 seconds. As soon as it's there, it stops and continues. So if I do the request, and the request takes 2 seconds, the synchronous request takes 2 seconds, the other 8 seconds we ignore it, and it continues the test execution. It won't be waiting for 10 seconds, and the next one 10 seconds, next one 10 seconds. Yeah. Let's see in this sense, if I add 5 seconds here and I run it as well, it will fail, but we wait for 5 more seconds to wait. But we will use this only for asynchronous systems, only when we have asynchronous calls, not for normal tests. Because it doesn't make sense because we increase a lot the test execution. So this, even the, I can say here, condition timeout. So the condition that we have for event test wasn't fulfilled in 5 seconds. Now we got it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Obrigado. So, I forgot to mention, but when you guys get the slides, they're all the examples explain it. So you guys can do the same at home. So let's talk about wire mock, and the last one will be PyTest. How many of you knows wire mock? Yeah, a lot. Yeah. So you guys are using mocks. Nice. And probably you guys use like this, right? Yeah. See? Yeah. Because we use the Java library for that, and we stub the things, right? There is only one problem with this approach, from my perspective, that I will show to you. You guys try to guess what it is? What is it? No? You guys work in isolation, in silos in your team, right? So maybe this restriction that you guys are using is beneficial for other team, and another team, and another team, and 10 different teams. That is one of the problems we solved where I'm working right now. We have mocks, but sometimes there are mocks that are shared between a lot of teams. We can create a lot of different approaches, like libraries to use it, but we should maintain the libraries. It won't be that shared. I have a different way to show to you how we can create exactly this thing using wire mock in this way. So I'm illustrating that we have a lot of teams that might use this mock, and instead of attaching to my test, I'm creating a service virtualization approach. What is a service virtualization approach? Is to creating a service that will be there, replying to you as a mock server. And everything will be centralized there. All the requests that all the teams will do, they will try to run. If the service virtualization is running, it will proxy to that service, and that service will reply to you instead of the real one, instead of the mocking one. And as we are doing that decentralized way, we can share with like among all other teams. Instead of creating libraries, we can easily create a Docker container and just start up in our own machine. Or as a Docker container, if we have a cluster, we can just deploy this in a Kubernetes cluster. Will be persistent there forever for everyone. So it can decrease a lot the necessity to create more code for mocks. How we can do that? You can create using Java code, and you can create using JSON files. I will show JSON files because it's easy to explain, okay? But you guys are super experienced, so I could show you through the Java code as well. What I have here to illustrate first. I have this credit simulator API, that is an API as well. And I just need to run it because it's not here, and it's why it is not Maven? Maven again. Maven. Reloads. Reload as Maven. Reload. Let's try to run. No, because it's not reloading as a Maven project. And it's resolving dependencies right now. During the talk, right? It's like IntelliJ indexing everything right during something. Downloading plugins. Yeah. Now we can run. No, we cannot run. No. Yeah, now we can run. what will happen here? In this project, let me show the controller. It's super silly thing as well. But in this controller, when I do, where is it? Where is it? No. Check for restrictions. It's super silly thing just to show to you to illustrate this. Every time I will do an operation in this API, it's called simulations, I will call the restrictions. And these restrictions, it's another service from another team, from a third-party library, etc. And I just configure here to get the endpoints. And I will call that third library API to do something. And after that, I can continue doing my stuff. Okay? I don't have it, neither as a mock. So if I try to do this simulation, and probably this is 8089. Yeah. So if I try out again to do a post, I get a 500 because I don't even, I'm super lazy. I didn't handle this exception, but just illustrate 500 because that API is not accessible. What I can do? I can create this. One of the things that Watermark does, instead of Java code, it's mapping through JSON files. What I'm doing here. I have here the simulation. And it's a super easy JSON file that is getting the request up here. All the time, when I do this post to this path, and I have this exactly data in my request body, then I will reply as forbidden, and I will reply with a specific file as a response body. This specific file is here, and it just, a CPF has a restriction. And I'm just mapping all the time when I have that request coming, replying like this to me. And I can create a lot of different ones. Super easy, right? And what I'm doing right now, I have a Docker file and a Docker Compose. So in a Docker file, I'm just building from scratch this Docker image using the Watermark standalone, download it, and just starting it. And in my Docker Compose, I'm matching the files I have because it's a normal thing for Watermark. If you use JSON files, there is a specific way to mapping. That is the down here. So I'm mapping the files I have, and I can start up Watermark as a container. Right now, I can run in my machine, in a cluster, whatever I want. And I will build this one. Install Docker plugin. No, that's why didn't do before. Let's see if it will, because yeah, super fast. Cool, super fast. And now there is run here, and am I running Docker? Yeah. So we can see that it's pulling. Oh, desgraça. It happens, right? But now it's pulling. Yeah, the internet here is good. Yeah, it's nice. So you can see from scratch right now. So it's built. If I can see in my Watermark, it's already started. There's something here, Watermark, blah, blah, blah. Cool. I will run that application again. Where is my, and it's CD, credit API, simulator, and MVN, Spring, run. Oh my God. And it failed. It fails? Why it failed? Error. No plugin fault for Spring. What I'm doing wrong here? Spring Boot? Dash Boot, yeah. Thank you. Obrigado. De novo. So when I do the request, remember that what I mapped, it should return instead of 500, forbidden, 403, right? And I'll just refresh here. Try it out again. Execute. What is happening? Presentation, right? I'm doing the post. Oh, I forgot. Remember, we must match this key because I map it in my watermark project. So if I go there in the project, yeah, here in the simulation, it should be this one. It's similar, but it should be exactly this one. So we'll go there again. Yeah, it's just slightly different. I will try it out again. And now it's 403. And again, I can distribute this Docker container to every team. And if you guys have a cluster, persistent one, put in a cluster, problem solved. Easy to maintain, easy to distribute, removes a lot of code from your code base. Nice? Questions? No? Okay. Oops. Amazon. No, watermark. So, PyTest. How many of you knows PyTest? Few ones. Nice. So cool. 3. Cole is back there, he knows, right? Yeah. Thank you. So what is PyTest? It does mutation tests. It's not about X-Men or anything like this. It's called a mutation test because this tool will change your code to behave not in a proper way, to try to see if the code is still working or not, doing that conditions. If the code changes and there is nothing like wrong, it's okay. If there's something wrong, it's not because it's not fully covered. It's because there are some conditions you might need to think, more corner case for your tests. So this, more or less, in a nutshell, is mutation testing. And we can do with a lot of things. We can do conditional boundary, increments, math, and they have a lot of building functions to try to search in your code. And of course, you can write down your custom one. And I will show a super silly project that you guys can see how interesting PyTest. And by the way, I'm contributing to some open source projects. I'm adding in a lot of different open source projects PyTest. Even the project that you guys use daily behind the scenes had a lot of issues. Because it's normal. Of course, it's normal. You are human, right? We cannot think about all the conditions. And this will help us with a lot of different conditions. What I can do here, I can close this one, can go to the PyTest example, and this search main, I have here just a, what is happening? But it will run anyway, right? So I have a super conditional super silly thing. 2 parameters, A, B, if A is less than B, or like greater than, right? Normal if condition, super silly one. Cool? Let's create a test for it. How we can create a test for it? Here, I already have the test? Yeah, I already have the test, but it's perfect. So I have 2 tests here. One with conditional A1, B2, and another the opposite one. Less than, greater than, right? If I run this, and I will run this using the coverage feature from IntelliJ, or I could use Sonar or anything, I have 100% of test coverage. Yeah. So my job is done here, right? So you guys push the pull request, prove, merge, beer. But what if, what if I run PyTest? And what I'm doing here with PyTest, oh my God, yeah. I need to configure it as a plugin, of course. And I have a profile called PyTest. I have here the library, and I'm telling to PyTest, every time there is a test compile, there is a testing process on Maven lifecycle, run the mutation coverage for me. And it will start to do a lot of bad things in your code. And if I go to the terminal again, and if I run mvn test PyTest, it will download the whole internet first, right? And it shows, okay, the tests run successfully, but it will generate a report for me. And this report, it's on target. PyTest reports is the HTML file that I will open and look at this. I have 100% of coverage, but the mutation test strength is not good. And if I go to the class, it shows exactly what is the problem. And what is the problem that is written there? Conditional boundary. Do you know, guys, what I need to do here? Equals. There's a super silly thing, right? I'm not comparing any equal. If both are equal, and it's a flaw in my system. It's a problem, right? Because I should have been thinking about this. I didn't. I created two tests. There's 100% of coverage, but I'm missing one super silly scenario. And we have PyTest to remember us about it. So we can try to figure out a lot of different problems in our code, just running like a smart check using PyTest. Questions? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. You can integrate and can get that result input SonarCube. And if you have like this survivors, wars, you can like tell something like it's a big issue, solve like in Sonar. You can create different Sonar metrics for that. Cool. Any other? Yeah. That's perfect question. It is expensive. Because as soon as you have like the system like growing, this will take a lot of time. And there's nothing much you can do. You cannot run that in parallel formally. But what you can do, you can figure out a approach to run locally. Or what I do during the pipeline checks, during every pull request and change in pull request, I don't run that. But we have a pre-merge request that even before merge, we run all those tests. And before it merged, if there's any problem, we stop. But it consumes a lot of time, depending on the project. And just to finish with this talk, I will tell you more modern tools you can use that I could not cover here. But before, I have two things. If you guys can scan this for a minute, it's feedback for my session. So you can grade 1 to 4, and you can leave a comment if you guys want. If you guys liked my session or not, please give me the feedback. I will try to improve my talk later. And while you guys are responding it, what are the more modern tools you can use? Of course, test containers. Test containers is everywhere. I don't talk about test containers because we have Oleg already like talking about test containers, super smart guy, and he can explain like in a perfect way how to use test containers, but it's a super nice one. JUnit, that you can create unit tests to define somehow the architecture of your project and patterns of your project, how to use the project. And if it's being used in a different way that it's supposed to be, the test will fail. Data Faker, that is a library to generate data for your test or for anything. Why is this cool? Because it generates a lot of different data. You can see them. And actually, the owner of it, the main contributor, is creating some extension to connect to ChatGPT and any other thing to get real specialized data instead of like the custom fakers that is inside. The last one is Playwright. Playwright is for front-end testing, but it's good because Microsoft is behind the scenes, and it's a super promising tool to write tests in Java for front-end testing. Cool. So you guys can scan this. You can have the talk already with all the examples. And thank you guys for all the questions for being here.